We're continuing with our remembrances of Uddhava. And we're discussing today the intersection of Braj Leela and Mathura Leela. That connection between the two is a good place to stand and gaze upon Vrindavan from just across the border from Mathura. Because as we explained this morning, in Braj, no one cares to know Krishna is God. They don't want to hear it. All they know is Krishna's the sweetest lover. Krishna's the sweetest son. He's the best friend. He's the best master. That's all they know. So as we discussed this morning, even when the Brijbasis see Krishna do something inconceivable, like lift Govardhan Hill, they don't really believe that he's anything inconceivable. They don't believe he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just like lifting Govardhan Hill, what does Mother Yashoda think? She thinks Nanda Maharaj actually lifted it. This is the way it is in Braj. Even when they see Krishna do things that no human could do, they think it's because of some pious activities he performed, therefore he has special powers. They think it's because of the powers and mantras chanted by the local Brahmana priests in Braj. Or they think, oh, because we worship Narayan, Krishna has been saved. But in Mathura, as we discussed this morning, there's a mixture. There's awareness of Krishna being God. At the same time, as we see in Vasudeva and Devaki, they become absorbed in thinking Krishna is our son, or in Dwarka, Krishna is our husband. So this mixture is very fascinating, this Mathura mixture. And we're going to see it even more in action upon the killing of Kamsa. The verse we'll discuss this afternoon is Uddhava remembering how astonishing it is that Krishna and Balaram covered over Vasudeva and Devaki's perception that they are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why did Krishna do that? It's because of what Vasudeva and Devaki saw in the wrestling arena of Kamsa. Suddenly they realized, oh my God, we're dealing not with our sons, we're dealing with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But Krishna didn't want that to last for long. Why? Because Krishna wanted to exchange Vatsalya Prem, loving relationship in parenthood with them. So Krishna had to do something about it. And that's what this verse is about that we'll chant just now. And then we'll talk about what it is that Vasudeva and Devaki saw in the wrestling arena of Kamsa, which culminated with the death of Kamsa. What is it that caused them to suddenly realize, as I said, oh my God, we're dealing with God. Dunoti cheta smarato mamaitad. Yar aha parava vivanja pitro. Tatamba Kamsa Uru Sankitana. Prasidatam no krita niskritina. Dunoti cheta smarato mamaitad. Yad aha para vavivandya pitro. Tatamba kamsad uru sankitanam. Prasidatam no krita niskritinam. Dunoti cheta smarato mamaitad. Yad aha pada vavivandya pitro. Tatamba kamsad uru sankitanam. Prasidatam no krita niskritinam. Dunoti, it gives me pain. Cheta, heart. Smarata, while thinking of. Mama, my. Etat, this. Yat, as much as. Aha, said. Padao, feet. Abhivandya, worshipping. Pitro, of the parents. Tata, my dear father. Amba, my dear mother. Kangsat, out of Kamsas. Uru, great. Sankitanam, of those who are afraid. Prasidatam, be pleased with. Na, our. Akrita, not executed. Nishkritinam, duties to serve you. Translation. Lord Krishna begged pardon from his parents for their, Krishna and Balaram's, inability to serve their feet due to being away from home because of great fear of Kamsa. He said, "Oh mother, oh father, please excuse us for this inability." All this behavior of the Lord gives me pain at heart. Purport. It appears that Lord Krishna and Baladev were both very greatly afraid of Kamsa, and therefore they had to hide themselves. But if Lord Krishna and Baladev are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, how was it possible that they were afraid of Kamsa? Is there any contradiction in such statements? Vasudeva, due to his great appreciation for Krishna, wanted to give him protection. He never thought that Krishna was the Supreme Lord and could protect himself. He thought of Krishna as his son. Because Vasudeva was a great devotee of the Lord, he did not like to think that Krishna might be killed like his other children. Morally, Vasudeva was bound to deliver Krishna to the hands of Kamsa because he had promised to turn over all his children. But out of his great love for Krishna, he broke his promise. And the Lord was very pleased with Vasudeva for his transcendental mentality. He did not want to disturb the intense affection of Vasudeva, and thus he agreed to be carried by his father to the house of Nanda and Yashoda. And just to test the intense love of Vasudeva, Lord Krishna fell down in the waters of the Yamuna while his father was crossing the river. Vasudeva became mad after his child as he tried to recover him in the midst of the rising river. These are all glorified pastimes of the Lord, and there is no contradiction in such manifestations. Since Krishna is the Supreme Lord, he was never afraid of Kamsa, but to please his father, he agreed to be so. And the most brilliant part of his supreme character was that he begged pardon from his parents for being unable to serve their feet while absent from home because of fear of Kamsa. The Lord, whose lotus feet are worshipped by demigods like Brahma and Shiva, wanted to worship the feet of Vasudeva. Such instruction by the Lord to the world is quite appropriate. Even if one is the Supreme Lord, one must serve his parents. A son is indebted to his parents in so many ways, and it is the duty of the son to serve his parents, however great the son may be. Indirectly, Krishna wanted to teach the atheists who do not accept the supreme fatherhood of God, and they may learn from this action how much the Supreme Father has to be respected. Uddhava was simply struck with wonder by such glorious behavior of the Lord, and he was very sorry that he was unable to go with him. Translation again. Lord Krishna begged pardon from his parents for their, Krishna's and Balarama's, inability to serve their feet due to being away from home because of great fear of Kamsa. He said, "Oh mother, oh father, please excuse us for this inability. All this behavior of the Lord gives me pain at heart." So the question came earlier today, why this pain? Why is Uddhava feeling pain in his heart? Pain of love and separation. Because Krishna has withdrawn his presence from the ordinary vision of the world. Now, Uddhava, of course, is the Lord's eternal companion. Yet, in this manifest pastime, manifest meaning present in this world, in the ordinary way, in the ordinary world, Uddhava is feeling the absence of Krishna. And that is Krishna's gift to Uddhava, to taste love in separation. So Uddhava is commenting that it's brilliant, it's amazing, the supreme character of Lord Krishna. Just see, he's begging pardon from his parents for being unable to serve them while he was absent from home. And why was he absent from home? He says, because of fear of Kamsa. Does he really mean it? How could he be the Supreme Personality of Godhead if he's afraid of Kamsa? Or, number two, is he speaking lies? No, this is all about increasing the love. And that's what we're going to talk about this afternoon. This special love that Vasudeva and Devaki have, in which sometimes they're aware that they're dealing with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but most of the time, their affection for Krishna and Balaram as their sons is the main reality. That's why they were fearful when they were in the prison of Kamsa. Oh no, what are we going to do? We don't want Kamsa to kill our 8th child. What are we going to do? And Vasudeva cheated Kamsa. He had promised Kamsa, every child I'll turn over to you for your dispensation, meaning for your murder. You're murdering them. but he didn't turn over the eighth child. And as we'll find out today, Kamsa didn't forget that. Kamsa relied on Vasudev's word. Everyone knew about Vasudev's word of honor. So Kamsa had said, you promise to deliver all the children unto me so I don't have to kill Devaki? All right. You're Vasudev. We all know about your word of honor. Let it be. But in spite of Vasudev's word of honor, that reputation, he couldn't turn over the eighth child. And Kamsa, he doesn't forget this, as we'll find out now. So where are we going? We're going to the wrestling arena in Mathura. So what's happening? How many of you are familiar with this Leela of Krishna in the wrestling arena? Raise your hands. So we'll jump right in the middle of the scene. We'll skip over how the elephant Kuvalayapid was dealt with at the gate of the wrestling arena by Krishna and Balaram. We'll skip over most of the wrestling match between Kamsa's wrestlers, who are as strong as mountains, and tender, young Krishna and Balaram, around 11 years of age from the mundane calculation. So they're wrestling. And there's a lot of commotion going on in the audience, especially by the women of Mathura. They're saying, how can anyone who has any sense of justice and fair play sit there and watch this wrestling match between this bunch of professional wrestlers and Krishna and Balaram? We've heard that Krishna and Balaram and their friends wrestle in the forests of Vrindavan. That's one thing. But wrestling with professional killer wrestlers is another thing. Who has arranged this? Who can watch this? This is unfair. This is unjust. This is abominable. There are 10 verses where the ladies of Mathura, who are in the wrestling arena, are expressing their distress. And they also express their appreciation of the Brajabasis. Oh, how much better is Vrindavan, where Krishna and Balaram can sport and play with no fear. But look what's happening in Mathura, in our own wrestling arena. Such corruption, such injustice. So there's all kinds of buzzing going on amongst the ladies. And Vasudev and Devaki hear this. And they become distressed. Oh no. What's happening to our boys? Just listen to the talk. What can we do? We're powerless. So they're seeing Krishna as their sons. And they're not showing any awareness of his powers as the Supreme Personality Godhead. So what's happening on the floor of the wrestling arena? On the mat, the wrestling mat. Krishna hears the whispering and talk amongst the ladies. Krishna's sensitive to the ladies. He hears what they're buzzing about. Oh, they think I'm in danger. Because the ladies, some of them, saw perspiration on the lotus face of Krishna. The beads of perspiration on the lotus feet of Krishna while wrestling are actually decorations. But the ladies thought, oh, he's getting fatigued. Oh, no, he's getting tired. So they continued to buzz about how unfair this is. And Krishna took note. And Krishna said to himself, all right, I'm finishing these wrestlers off. So he took one wrestler, whirled him around, and slammed him on the ground. Finished. Balaram kicked a few wrestlers in the head and cracked their heads. Smashed a few with his fists. and all the wrestlers were finished, or else some of them ran for their lives, which you're not supposed to do as a professional wrestler. You have your fame to worry about, and you have fear of Kamsa, because Kamsa's in your boss. He's your boss. But they didn't care. The remaining wrestlers just ran for the hills. Forget reputation. Forget about Kamsa's wrath. We're getting out of here. So what did Krishna do next? Were the wrestlers dead or they fled? He called his cowherd boys. Remember his cowherd boys had also come to Mathura? Come on, boys. Come out into the center of the ring. Let's celebrate. Just like a prize fighter when he wins the boxing match. You know, he's jumping up and down in the center of the ring. And so Krishna calls all his cowherd boys, let's celebrate. At first, the cowherd boys were a little hesitant. They were shy, and they were a little fearful of Kamsa. But Krishna, come on out here. Let's party. So how did they party? They played wrestling right in the Kamsa's arena. Let's play like we do. We'll play wrestling just like we do in the forests of Vrindavan. So what's Kamsa's reaction? His wrestlers are dead or fled. He stands up, and with his left hand, he indicates, stop the music. Because during a wrestling match, there's music to encourage the wrestlers. So Kamsa, stop, stop. As soon as he had his musicians stop, the demigods in the heavenly planets started their own music. So Kamsa just flew into a rage. Oh, he was so angry. He called out orders. Drive the sons of Vasudeva, Krishna and Balaram. Drive them out of Mathura. Confiscate all the property, all the wealth of the cowherd boys. What was that wealth? Milk products. These days, people would say, milk products, wealth. Ha! But in a real human society, milk products are the real wealth. And so that's why Kamsa said, he ordered, confiscate all their property, take away their wealth, take away the yogurt, the ghee, the milk, the sandesh, the sweetmeats, take it all away. That was a way to damage someone. What else? Kill Vasudeva. He cheated me. He was supposed to bring to me all his children. He promised to bring the newborn babies. He didn't do that. And what about this Nanda Maharaj of Vrindavan? He's conspiring with Vasudeva. He hid those boys. He should be put in chains. So kill Vasudeva and kill my father Ugrasena. He wanted his own father killed. Why? Because Ugrasena, although he's my father, he's partial to my enemies. Kill him. So he's roaring out such trash. And at that point, Krishna's had enough. What does Krishna do? Krishna's on the floor of the arena. Kamsa's high on a throne above the arena. What does Krishna do? He does it so fast that no one could see. He jumped from the floor of the arena where the wrestling mat was all the way up into the stands where Kamsa had his throne. No one could see it. He did it so quickly. 1 minute he's on the floor of the arena. Next minute she's up there with Kamsa. Kamsa sees him coming and grabs his sword and shield and tries to protect himself, moving expertly this way, moving that way, circling. Doesn't matter. Krishna catches him, knocks his crown off his head, and then takes Kamsa by the hair and throws him down onto the floor of the arena. Doesn't end there. What does Krishna do next? He jumps from up high in the arena and lands on top of Kamsa. In this way, he used Kamsa as a landing pad, so he wouldn't bruise his body. Of course, Krishna's body is transcendental and never becomes injured. But anyway, he uses Kamsa's body as a pad and lands on top of Kamsa. Some say that Kamsa lost his life just by Krishna's landing on him. In Krishna book, Prabhupada says, besides Krishna landing on top of Kamsa, Krishna pounded him to death with his fists. The audience watching was astonished. No one expected an 11-year-old boy to kill this mountain-like giant, Kamsa. So the whole audience exclaimed, "Ha! Ha! Ha! Oh! Oh!" But Krishna is very sensitive. He's thinking, I'm not sure that my mother and father, Vasudeva and Devaki, really think that Kamsa's dead. They may think I simply knocked him unconscious. So here's what I'll do. This is how sensitive Krishna is towards his devotees. Here's what I'll do. He dragged the giant body of Kamsa all around the arena. See, he's dead. He's dead. See? And then Krishna dragged the body of Kamsa, a huge body, dragged it to the bank of the Yamuna. The body was so heavy and big, it made a channel in the ground to the Yamuna. But there were others left, other of Kamsa's party. And they attacked Krishna and Balaram, who easily took care of them. Particularly Balaram, just with his club, took care of Kamsa's entourage, Kamsa's brothers. Because they thought, we have a debt to Kamsa. And in Vedic culture, indebtedness means something, not like in barbarian Kali Yuga. I owe someone something, who cares, so what? No, they felt indebted. Our father has been, is it father or brother? Brother. Our brother has been killed. We have an obligation to take revenge. So they attacked, but Balaram finished all of them off. So now what do you have? What does Krishna have to deal with next? Who knows? Weeping widows. Kamsa's main wife was the daughter of who? Jarasandha. That's another reason why Kamsa was so confident of his invincibility. I have married the daughter of Jarasandha. Such a powerful alliance we have of demons. But now Jarasandha's daughter is a widower. Along with, Kamsa had about 1,000 wives. They're all widows. So they approach, as Krishna is dragging the body to the bank of the Yamuna, they all approach, and who can demonstrate this? Crying, pulling your hair, and beating your head. You have anyone to demonstrate? No, you're a lady. Any of our ladies? Cry, pull your hair, and beat your head. That's what they're doing. So what does Krishna do? He shows some tears also. He's into the drama, you know. And he even tells them, oh, I made 1,000 widowers. Oh, I allowed human anger to overcome me. So he gets into it also, showing some tears. And then the widowed ladies begin to speak. most of them started talking about their dead husband Kamsa like he was some pillar of Dharma. They even say that, oh, what has happened to our husband? He's the knower of Dharma, Dharmagya. He's so compassionate. He's the shelter for those who have no shelter. It was always a festival in our city when he was alive, and now he's dead. What will become of our city? They're crying and lamenting like that. Krishna's also showing some tears. Oh, I shouldn't have made you all widows. Anger overcame me. Some of Kamsa's wives, however, they just pretended to lament. They showed some tears in order to fit in with everyone, to fit in with the other wives, but they actually said, this is what happens when you're cruel and cause pain and violence to others. What happened to our husband Kamsa is appropriate. So then what? It's time for Krishna to free Vasudeva and Devaki from their imprisonment. And he does that. He has others arrange for the funeral ceremony for Kamsa and Kamsa's brothers. What do you think? Someone kills your husband and then says, let me arrange the funeral ceremony. Krishna can do all these things. He can get away with all this. So he has others make the arrangements to conduct the funeral ceremony. And then Krishna goes to where his father and mother, Vasudeva and Devaki, are kept. And he releases them from their imprisonment. Now understand, evidently Vasudeva and Devaki, they had been watching the wrestling match. They must have been chained or something. And they were stunned. They realized by seeing their son kill Kamsa, they realized he is no ordinary human being. He's not our son. He's a supreme personality of Godhead. So they were in complete awe and reverence. Krishna and Balaram approached them together because Krishna's thinking that will make the situation even more potent. Balaram and I, their children, will approach them and reestablish the paternal bond. But as they approached Vasudeva and Devaki, they saw that Vasudeva and Devaki were aware of their transcendental opulences, their Aishvarya. So Śrīmad Goswami explains, Pitarav upalabdhartatau viditva purushottama mabudati nijam mayam tatana jana mohini. Śrīmad Goswami said, understanding that his parents were becoming aware of his transcendental opulences, the Supreme Personality of Godhead thought that this should not be allowed to happen. Thus, he expanded his Yoga Maya, which bewilders his devotees. So they're seeing Krishna as God, and Krishna doesn't want that. He wants that perception of his divinity to vanish, and parental love should be the reality. It's true that knowledge of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead is rare. But much rarer than that is the rasa, that Krishna is our son. So Krishna wanted Vasudeva and Devaki to experience that highest treasure. And Krishna's thinking, by their doing that, will all experience the supreme bliss. So what does he do? He spreads his Yoga Maya potencies. And in that way, Vasudeva and Devaki will see Krishna as their son once again. Because you can just visualize, they've seen this extraordinary scene of Krishna killing Kamsa. No one thought an 11-year-old boy could kill the giant Kamsa. But they've seen this. So when Krishna and Balaram approached Vasudeva and Devaki, bowing down, touching their head to the feet of their parents, Vasudeva and Devaki don't know what to do. They're like standing there. They can't bow down because parents don't bow down to their children. Any parents here bow down to the children? No. So they couldn't bow down even though they had seen a display, the Aishvarya of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So they were just froze. And Krishna's wondering, what are we going to do here? I've got to get some Vatsalya Prem out of this. I've got to get some parental love out of this. So then he begins to speak. He bows his head and he begins to gratify his parents by respectfully addressing them as Amba, my dear mother. Tata, my dear father. This is how he begins to spread his Yoga Maya, by his words. So remember, he has Balaram with him, thinking that Balaram and I will do this together, and that will bring about an even greater reaction from the parents. So he calls out to them, Amba, Tata. He's joyful, but speaking with respect. So what does he say? First, he talks to the father, even though mother is there. Dear father, because of us, your two sons, you and Mother Devaki, always remained in anxiety and could never enjoy our childhood, boyhood, or youth. This is actually an expression of gratitude, this speech that Krishna is making. We talked about gratitude this morning. This is a different kind of gratitude, that you gave so much, but we could do nothing for you. We acknowledge that you've been anxiety for us. We acknowledge our inability to serve you. We acknowledge our inability to receive from you your parental love. This is a different way of expressing gratitude. That you, as I said, have given so much. What could we do? We cannot repay our debt. Have you ever told someone that? I cannot repay my debt to you. I know one householder man told me that the greatest thing his wife ever told him was that, you know, I wouldn't mind being married to you in my next life. I won't tell you what the husband was thinking, but but that's a way of expressing gratitude. I wouldn't mind being married to you again. Generally, it's, I'll be glad when, never, anyway. So, I've had too much lunch prasad. So let's continue with Krishna's speech, which is very moving. Forgive us. We cause you so much anxiety. What next? Karma. Due to our karma, we could not live with you. Due to our destiny, we could not enjoy the pampered happiness that most children enjoy in their parents' home. So you're thinking, what is this? Krishna controlled by destiny? But he's speaking all this to weave a spell of yoga maya over Vasudeva and Devaki so that they stop thinking he's God. He's speaking so tenderly. Oh, he's so touching their heart with the right words. And so he says, not only did you parents suffer in separation, but we two boys, also suffered in separation from you, our parents. We shouldn't have deprived you of this happiness, but we were also deprived of happiness. It's just fate, bad fate, that we could not live with you. Of course, we all know the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not dependent on karma. But he's speaking like that in order to bring out the Vatsalya Prem, the parental love of his parents. Because remember, as we said before, they've seen the most astonishing thing. You have to understand what a hideous giant brute was Kamsa. And this is why it's so astonishing that an 11-year-old boy has finished him. So Krishna goes on about how there's a debt to the parents because they give you a body, a human body. He says, with one's body, one can acquire all goals of life. And it is one's parents who give the body birth and sustenance. Therefore, no mortal man can repay his debt to his parents, even if he serves them for a full lifetime of 100 years. So this is real human civilization, acknowledging one's obligations. Of course, we have to be careful when applying that to those fully engaged in the Lord's service, because as stated in the 11th canto, Devarshi Bhutapta Nirnam Patrinam. One who is fully engaged in Krishna's service has no obligations to the demigods, to the rishis, to family members, to animals, to human society, to ancestors. But one has to be non-fanatical in the application of that verse. But Krishna is speaking about a normal human society, which we don't have today. And he's saying, the parents give a human body. With the human body, you can achieve material and spiritual goals. Therefore, who can repay his debt to his parents, even if he serves them for a full lifetime of 100 years? You got a body from them. And he explains, the body is born and nourished by the parents. Actually, that's not true in his case. Why? Vasudeva and Devaki didn't nourish or sustain Krishna and Balaram in their childhood. But Krishna is saying this to bring about the feeling, the rasa. Then he explains the consequences of those who don't, although capable, those who don't care, provide for their parents. A son who, though able to do so, fails to provide for his parents with his physical resources and wealth, is forced after death to eat his own flesh. The agents of Yamaraj make sure that you do that. So Krishna is explaining, again, how a normal human society functions. Your karmic duty for the son is to provide for the parents. If the son is capable of doing that and doesn't do it, then he faces severe sinful reactions. Just like, for example, my mother has other sons besides me, but she's the the only thing she knows about Vedic culture and Vaishnava knowledge is, you're the oldest son. You should be home taking care of your mother. That's the only thing she knows. She doesn't understand sannyas, brahmacharya, nothing. She's just heard from some Indian friends at work. The oldest son should be taking care of you. She has other sons. One who's even CEO of Toyota North America, so she's well taken care of, but never enough. You should be home taking care of your mother and not talking to those strange Indian people. As I often point out, 50 years ago when I became a brahmachari, 51 years ago, she was saying, why are you mixing with these strange people? All that happens in India, everyone's starving there. Now, 51 years later, what does she say? Oh, you're associating with those Indian people. They're very smart. They take all the good jobs. The times have changed. So Krishna is pointing out, from the karma kanda point of view, what happens when a son who's supposed to and able to take care of his parents fails to do so. What is the fate enforced by the representatives of Yamaraj? And then Krishna widens the picture about who should be supported. He says, a man, although able to do so, who fails to support his elderly parents, chaste wife, young child, or spiritual master, or who neglects a brahmana or anyone else who comes to him for shelter, is considered dead, though breathing. So let's go through that list again. Elderly parents, chaste wife, young child, spiritual master, brahmana, or anyone who approaches for shelter. This is a real human society being described here. And you can see, you may have Centerlink, but you don't have this. Of course, if someone from the karma kanda point of view is incapable of supporting, then this fault doesn't apply. So Vasudeva and Devaki are not at fault for not protecting their children. They couldn't do it. They were in prison. So Krishna goes on. Thus we have wasted all these days. We are unable to properly honor you. Why? Who knows? Our minds were always disturbed by fear of Kamsa. So this is Krishna pulling out the parental sympathy of Vasudeva and Devaki. Krishna and Balaram are playing the role of an ordinary child. What ordinary child would not be afraid of a hideous, gigantic monster like Kamsa? Right? You would be afraid of Kamsa, right? Yes? Yes, you'd be afraid. So Krishna is using that feeling that we were just children. We were so afraid of Kamsa. We spent our days uselessly because of that fear. We were paralyzed by that fear. We could not honor you properly because of fear of Kamsa. So now he says, dear father and mother, please forgive us for not serving you. We are not independent, and we have been greatly frustrated by cruel Kamsa. We've been living in hiding because of fear of Kamsa. What can be done? We're not independent. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God, is not independent. He is the only independent being. What does Lord Brahma say? Janmadya Yasataha Abhigya Swarat. Only Krishna has unlimited consciousness, and he's completely independent. What's a wonderful way to define Krishna as a Supreme Personality of Godhead? He has the quality of Swaraja Lakshmi. This is explained by Lord Chaitanya in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Swaraja Lakshmi means Krishna has unlimited desires and the unlimited ability to fulfill every one of his unlimited desires. So you know, I often ask the question, how many desires do you have? Name some desires you have. Ordinarily, we know you all want just Krishna. But if you were not a bhakta, what would you want? Desire number one. Huh? Money. Number two. Big house. Number three, if you don't already have it, PR, or to pass the English test. First pass the English test, then big house and big money. What else? Huh? A big car. Okay. Only one car? You need a big garage also. That comes with the big house, right? What else? A spouse who does whatever you want. You're only up to 5 now. What more? Can we make it to 10? Yes? Huh? Food. Not simply food, but pizza every night. Anything else? But if you have the big money, you don't need a good job. You have to think like a capitalist. Being super smart. What about being super beautiful? Better to be super smart and ugly, huh? All right. Super smart and beautiful. Still haven't reached 10 yet. Huh? Mystic powers. What about world peace, a clean environment? Does anyone here care about that? How about a Pakistan without nuclear weapons? Anyway, we're having difficulty getting past 10. That's my point. So therefore, how can you understand that Krishna has unlimited desires? It's beyond your conception, calculation, understanding. But Krishna does have unlimited desires. That's why, as Srila Prabhupada explained, if you're going to criticize Krishna for having 16,108 wives in Dwarka, you should be accurate about your criticism. You should say to Krishna, why only 16,108? Why not unlimited? Why did you stop at 16,108? That would be an accurate criticism. If you want to accuse Krishna of being lusty, then you have to be accurate. Accuse him of being unlimitedly lusty. Of course, Krishna has no material lust. He is simply full of the desire to make his devotees happy. He's independent. He only relies on himself for his enjoyment. Everything is Krishna's energy. The devotees, the material world, the spiritual world, it's all his. So he never goes outside of himself. He's Atmarama. But what happens when you try to enjoy? You have to go outside yourself and take on dangerous situations, work very hard, because you're not self-sufficient. You take a risk every time you want to enjoy. Let me try this. Let me try that. I'll work harder and get this. I'll work harder and get that. You have to rely on others. Oh, please love me. Please be nice to me. Oh, children, please do what I say. Don't embarrass me. You're so dependent on others, right? Krishna, even though he has unlimited devotees, he's completely independent. But here he is telling his mother and father, we're not independent. We've been greatly frustrated by cruel Kamsa. Is he lying? He's speaking to produce more love. It's true on one hand what he's saying, if you would consider Krishna an ordinary person. We've been frustrated. We've been impeded by Kamsa. But ultimately, it's not true. But on the path of love, it is true. In terms of Krishna's saying these things to bring out the Vatsalya Prem, the pure parental love of Vasudeva and Devaki, who are astonished to see that their sons have killed Kamsa and his wrestlers. They just can't, they're speechless. So what was the result of Krishna's speech? His parents joyfully raised Krishna and Balaram on their laps and embraced them. It's victory for Krishna. They're treating him like an ordinary child. They're crying. They have Krishna on the lap and they're embracing Krishna. They forgot all about seeing Krishna do something inconceivable. By Krishna's Yogamaya potency, they're overwhelmed with parental love. They forgot everything else. The only thing in their consciousness was this Vatsalya Prem. So they raised the two boys on their lap, crying and embracing them. This is the effect of Krishna's pulling over them his curtain of Yogamaya. They're pouring out a shower of tears upon Krishna. They're bound tightly by Sneha Pasha, the ropes of affection. They can't even speak. They're overwhelmed. Their throats are choked with tears. Has it ever happened to you? Your throat is choked with tears? This is what Krishna has produced in them for his pleasure and for their pleasure also, because Krishna wants everyone to taste the pure parental love. He wants Vasudeva, Devaki, himself, Balaram. In other words, let's get away from this Aishvarya, this astonishment. Let's get down to pure parental love between the children and you. So now, in conclusion, what does Krishna do? Who's going to rule Mathura? Kamsa's dead. So Krishna installs his maternal grandfather, Ugrasena, the one who Kamsa wanted to kill. He installs him as king of the Yadus. Now, technically, due to the curse of Yayati, if you've read the 9th canto of Bhagavatam, no Yadu is supposed to be king. But Krishna reasons that I'm appointing Ugrasena as king and declaring that I am his servant. So that's reason enough to break the curse of Yayati. But then there's other technicalities. Ugrasena is from the Bhoja dynasty. You see, the Yadu dynasty has 8 divisions. 2 of those divisions are the Vrishni dynasty, the Bhoja dynasty. So usually someone who would become king is from the Bhoja dynasty, even though that's a branch of the Yadus. And someone from the Vrishni dynasty wouldn't become king. So Krishna says, look, technically, Ugrasena is from the Bhoja dynasty. That's where the kings come from. And besides that, most importantly, I'm saying he should be king, so that's that. Ugrasena was a little hesitant. But Krishna told him, "O great king, we are your subjects. Please command us." So Ugrasena did that. And then Krishna reassured him, "You may be thinking that how can you take the job, the position of king? But if I am your servant, your citizen, that means all the demigods will be waiting to carry out your order." So that really encouraged Ugrasena. All right. Then what about all the Yadus who had fled abroad? They were hiding in caves, hiding in villages because of Kamsa's persecution. Krishna brought them all back. Come on back, everything is fine. And mystically, there were housing facilities all waiting for these returning Yadus. They didn't have to live in a refugee camp. So this is how perfect and complete Krishna is. And then everyone in Mathura, day after day, felt refreshed, rejuvenated, and enlivened because every day they could look at Krishna's face. So there's still the matter of Nanda Maharaj. Remember, Nanda Maharaj came to Mathura with the cowherd men and the cowherd boys, and they had come to pay their annual taxes to Kamsa, and they had brought so much milk product and agricultural produce. They're still in Mathura. So Krishna has to deal with that. But that's a subject for another day. Just remember this. Sanatana Goswami says, it is a wonder how Krishna was able to impel Nanda Maharaj to go back to Vrindavan without Krishna. What kind of powers does Krishna have? Sanatana Goswami is wondering. What could cause Nanda Maharaj to go back to Braj without Krishna and Balaram? Everyone in Braj is expecting him to return with Krishna and Balaram. Krishna had said, I'll be coming back in a few days after dealing with this Kamsa and pacifying Vasudeva and Devaki, my mother and father. They're in anxiety about me. And I'll come back after a few days. So this return of Nanda Maharaj to Vrindavan is an extraordinary situation. But that's a different rasa. That's pure Braj rasa. Because Nanda Maharaj never thinks that Krishna and Balaram are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His Vatsalya Prem, his parental love, has not one drop of Aishvarya, opulence in it. He simply thinks, Krishna, he's my son. That's all there is. Sometimes he does things that no one understands, but still, he's my son. So he's different from Vasudeva. And knowing that, this is why Krishna never deals with Nanda Maharaj and Vasudeva in the same place. So while Krishna and Balaram were going before Vasudeva and Devaki and making their presentation, oh Amba, oh Tata, Nanda Maharaj was not around. Nanda Maharaj was thinking, oh, my boy is safe, he's killed Kamsa, let me go to my own quarters. Let Krishna and Balaram refresh themselves. They'll be all right. So Krishna made sure that Nanda Maharaj was not around when Krishna made that presentation to Vasudeva and Devaki. Oh, Amba, oh, Tata, please forgive us. You could not enjoy our childhood. We could not enjoy your parental care. Nanda Maharaj wasn't there by Krishna's arrangement. So this is why we have the verse today. Uddhava is remembering this. What a scene he's remembering. And he's saying that remembrance causes him great pain. Where is Krishna? He's apparently left this world. He's left me. He's left me behind. Krishna had given some service to Uddhava before departing from the ordinary vision of the world. He wanted Uddhava to bring a message to Bhattarakashram. So Uddhava had some service to do. Still, he's feeling the pain of separation. But that pain of separation is not material. As we pointed out several times this morning, the love for Krishna in separation, that so-called pain, stands upon the head of any so-called happiness from any other place, including Vaikuntha. So the pleasure and pain of Goloka Vrindavan, the pleasure and pain of Goloka, including Mathura, Dwarka, is inconceivable. The pain is nectarian and the pleasure is nectarian. This is knowledge of Advaya Gyan. This is the true knowledge of duality. In the spiritual world, everything has the effect of Satchidananda, eternity, knowledge, and bliss. Whether it's so-called pain or so-called pleasure, it's all about Satchidananda. All right, any questions? Yes?
What dynasty was Kamsa?
Huh?
What dynasty? Hare Krishna Maharaji, thank you for the wonderful class. What dynasty was Kamsa in? Wasn't he also a Yadu?
Bhoja dynasty. And he was a real Bhoja man, a real sense enjoyer. Don't be that. Anyone else? Good question. You read Krishna book? Please do that. Have your father read Krishna book to you.
The kids' version or the big one?
Either one. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much. I had a question from the previous class. You mentioned weeds, and you mentioned that there can be weeds like the need for fame. Could you please talk more about the weeds that can be there?
The weeds, they're summarized by Mahaprabhu in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Unnecessary violence to other living entities. In other words, even if you're a vegetarian, still you're causing some violence, but you keep it to the minimum. But if you are violent beyond the absolute need, violent to other living entities, violent to human beings, and also violent to yourself by destroying your spiritual life, that's violence. Desire for acclaim and fame, mundane achievement. I should be known for my prowess. I should be known for my achievements. People should celebrate me. Puja, pratishta. I want some worship. I want some fame. My name should be chanted everywhere. Those are some of them. Acting in a way that's neglectful of your spiritual purpose. So these weeds sometimes can be tricky. As we said this morning, they can look just like the bhakti lata. I'm sure you've seen sometimes persons say, oh, I'm doing all this for Krishna. And you wonder, right? I have to make more money because of Krishna. Or they quote the verse from 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, you know? Karmani eva dikadaste. Krishna says, you do your duty. And they forget about the other half of the verse, right? Do your duty, but you're not entitled to the fruits. Oh, forgot that part. So we have to be very careful about our devotional garden, knowing that weeds can grow, taking advantage of the watering process. So when we don't have the association of sincere devotees, we lack the ability to discriminate between the spiritual and the material. We start seeing everything as spiritual. Inappropriately so. I don't think you've ever heard such excuses. I've heard, oh, I'm going to a dance, to a rave, because that joyous spirit is all part of Krishna. It's amazing how the conditioned soul can concoct. And that's why we need the guidance of the Shastra, the sadhus, and the Guru. Because we have a tendency to make concoctions like that. Prabhupada gives himself as an example. When he first met Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, in their very first meeting, and you can go to the spot in Calcutta on top of the roof of the building where this happened, Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur immediately told Srila Prabhupada, you should spread bhakti to the English-speaking world. And what was Prabhupada's response? Who will listen to someone from India, a colonized nation? First, there should be political independence, then preaching. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur told him, bhakti is so important, it doesn't wait for anything. Independence, this, that, the other, nothing comes before the development of bhakti. So in an instant, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur cut down that weed. But often you hear a person say, first I'll make a lot of money and then I'll practice bhakti. Or bhakti is something you do when you're very old. But bhakti should never be put off for anything. But if there's a weed in the garden, then we make excuses like that. I need to do this first. First, I need to pass the English test. Then I need to get the PR. Then I need to get the best job. Then I need to get the best house. And then I need the best wife. And then I need obedient children. And then I need a mother-in-law who doesn't bother me. And then on it goes. And then after all that, I'll become a devotee. Anything else? Can you help her with the microphone, please?
Hello. Okay, it's working now. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Pranam. Thank you so much for the class. Your aura is amazing. Okay, so my question was like, I agree with your point that in absence, you feel more connection with the God when there's absence of, and you long for the Krishna consciousness and long for His presence. So my question was, Krishna consciousness is good, and in the starting you feel good, you feel exalted. But then you tend to switch, like it's static. It's not growing exponentially further. And then you tend to switch between material affairs and then back again to spiritual affairs, so that you get those small packets, quantum packets of exalt. So is it a good practice?
Is what a good practice?
Switching between material affairs and then spiritual affairs, so that you maintain your packets of feeling vira from Krishna.
First of all, love of Krishna and separation is a very difficult subject to truly understand. It's not something cheap, like, oh, I'm feeling separation from the gods. It's a very exalted, it's the most exalted bhakti subject matter. So please let me inform you of that. Secondly, the so-called switching back and forth between the material and spiritual, that's a common concern, as you have said, rightly, means that our chanting is lacking, because by the daily attentive chanting of Hare Krishna, you can synthesize, you can keep together all the different strands of your life, the material and spiritual. The chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra gives you the vision to see that and the strength to do it. So this is why daily quality chanting of Hare Krishna is so important. Doing so changes your vision. Otherwise, it's true. You see, oh, I've got all these material affairs, and then I've got some spiritual practices I'm supposed to do. How do I put it all together? Oh, it'll never happen. But by daily chanting, you get the spiritual vision to harmonize all aspects of your life. How much are you chanting now?
Okay, that depends, like day to day. Sometimes I do like 8 to 10, sometimes it's just 2, depending on the work.
Ah, I see. I'm glad you started your chant. What I advise you to do is pick a number that you'll actually do every day now. What's that number?
How much should I
Think, what will you do for sure every day right now in your present state of consciousness?
It's like 2 in the morning, 2 in the night.
Huh?
2 in the morning, 2 in the night.
Okay, 4 a day, okay? Yeah. And then every week or 2 increase by 1 round.
Okay.
And then easily you'll get up to the minimum dosage of steady 16 rounds. You'll try it?
Yes.
Start with 4. You already are doing that, right?
Yes.
So what day are you going to go up to 5?
What?
After 1 week, you'll go up to 5, yes?
Okay.
And then the next week, go up to 6. Now, do you think, I have to confess, you'll allow me to confess?
Yes.
I wasn't chanting japa as soon as I emerged from my mother's womb. Do you know how I started chanting japa?
How?
1 bead a day, not 1 round, 1 bead a day. So if there's hope for me, there's so much more hope for you.
Thank you so much. That's helping.
Yes, I think that would help. So you can do it.
Yes, I can do it.
Yes?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. You mentioned this pastime that Krishna covered Vasudeva and Devaki in Yogamaya to transform their rasa from reverential relationship to more of a Vatsalya rasa to get more pleasure for himself.
They always had the Vatsalya prem, but it was stunned by seeing the display of Krishna's inconceivable powers. So Krishna wanted to get it going again.
So how do we practically apply this in our own life? Do we maintain our worship to Krishna as that reverential worship, or should we worship him with a more of a friendship or higher rasa? Or does that come naturally, or should we?
You've read Nectar of Devotion?
Yes.
The whole thing?
No.
Ah. Well, when you read Nectar of Devotion, which is the handbook of bhakti, you find out that there are 2 stages of bhakti. There is the therapeutic stage, the healing stage, and there is the relishing stage. So, first you focus on following the rules and regulations of devotional service. Out of duty, you're following the doctor's order because the doctor says, take this medicine. Gradually then, your health returns. Your spiritual health returns. And you start doing the activities of bhakti because of spontaneous attraction. But in the beginning, you're doing it out of duty. Rise early, chant Hare Krishna, read the books, only take Krishna Prasad. But as you become more purified, the prime motivating factor is not duty, it's I love doing this. I couldn't imagine doing anything else. Just like you don't think about eating or breathing. Similarly, chanting, sure. Why just 16 rounds? You get to your 16th round and think, oh, I want to do more. Why do I have to stop now? Whereas in the beginning when you chant, you're, oh, Hare Krishna. 3 more rounds to go. Krishna, Krishna, Hare, Hare. You make it into a burden. It's not a burden, it's the association of Krishna, but our contaminated consciousness dictates that artificial reality, that diseased state of mind. But by taking your medicine, your bhakti medicine every day, then as Rupa Goswami explains in Sri Upadeshamrita, Nectar of Instruction, Syat Krishna Nama Charitari, Satopya Vidya, Pitopatasya Rasanasya, Narochikanu. The holy name is sweet as sugar candy. Just a metaphor so you start to understand sugar candy. But because we have jaundice, we have hepatitis. You ever had hepatitis? Everything you taste is bitter, even the sweetest sugar. Because our tongue is diseased, meaning our consciousness is diseased, the holy name tastes bitter. But if we take our medicine of the holy name every day, the natural delight of chanting becomes revealed. So no longer are you doing it by force, you're doing it by spontaneous attraction. Here's one verse. This is the first verse I learned as a new bhakta 51 years ago. I know that, this is a nectar devotion in the beginning. I know that young boys have attraction for young girls. And I know young girls have attraction to young boys. I'm simply praying to you, Krishna, that my mind will be attracted to you in the same spontaneous way. What do you think about that prayer from Nectar Devotion? So you can make it your prayer. Anything else? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for this wonderful opportunity. So my question was that why do people in Braja think of Krishna as a friend but like not as God?
Not as?
God.
Because Krishna doesn't want that. It's no fun being worshipped all the time and hearing official hymns and prayers sung to you all the time. Krishna wants to wrestle. He wants to sport in the forest of Braj. That's real enjoyment, not just receiving official prayers and praise. He wants to play with his cowherd boyfriends. They have all kinds of games they play. Krishna is known as Vinoda Kovida. He's the expert at sports. That's God. Yes?
Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the nice class. So I had this question like, is rasa something that can be only experienced in spiritual world?
Is what?
Rasa something that can only be experienced in spiritual world?
No.
Or like I was wondering like...
In this, if you read Nectar of Devotion, you find in the stage of bhava, you can taste rasa, but it becomes solidified, concentrated in the state of prema.
Thank you, Maharaj. Like I was also wondering, like does different rasas coexist together in various proportions?
Say that again, please.
Does like different rasas coexist together in various proportions?
Do the different rasas
Yeah, coexist in different proportions. Like you mentioned about Devaki and Vasudev, like they were feeling awe and reverence for Krishna along with feeling Vatsalya Prema.
their rasa is there. It doesn't change. They're in parental love for Krishna. But sometimes they think that Krishna is the Supreme Personality Godhead, whereas Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mai, they're Vrindavan devotees. Their love is never affected by Aishvarya, opulence, and the jnana that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. So both Vasudeva and Devaki and Yashoda Mai and Nanda Maharaj, they're in Vatsalya Prem. But the Vatsalya Prem of Nanda Maharaj and Devaki is pure in that it has no tinge of knowledge of Krishna's opulence. You need to read Nectar of Devotion. They teach Nectar of Devotion at the temple? In Bhakti Shastri. So you'll learn all that.
Yeah, thank you.
Melbourne Mahaprabhu Mandir is famous for its educational programs under the guidance for many decades of Aniruddha Prabhu.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yes. Thank you for the wonderful class. Thank you for the wonderful questions.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you. You mentioned that if we're not able to serve our parents 100%, then we get sinful reactions. But sometimes, Maharaj, we see we're not able to serve our parents in some circumstances, like we go far away from them. And so
That's why Krishna said, when capable, you're gone far away from your parents?
like I see other people, their parents are like in India and they are over in Australia.
So that's why Krishna said, if you're capable. And also, this is the path of karma kanda, of good karma, punya. But we have to be careful because actually someone fully engaged in Krishna's service has no obligations to anyone. But we have to be non-fanatical about that. It takes some intelligence and discretion. Because actually a Vaishnava has no debts to anyone, not to ancestors, not to the demigods, not to the rishis, no one. Okay?
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So in classes we hear many times that a devotee, because a pure devotee doesn't have any obligations to do the normal rites.
Any devotee who's fully engaged in Krishna's service.
Yes, that was my understanding. Sometimes from relatives in India, we hear the argument that that's only for pure devotees. It's not for practicing devotees. So, for example, the Shraddha ceremony, so they get a bit critical.
Yes, so therefore I said you have to be tactful and use discretion. You don't want to unnecessarily cause a family disturbance scene by giving them a lecture in Vaishnav Siddhanta. Actually, according to Shastra, I have no obligation. They don't understand that, right? No. What do you mean? This is the family tradition. You must do this, you must do that. So like my father once told me, this is about the only good advice my father ever gave me. He said, son, choose your battles. That means even though you're fully practicing bhakti, don't unnecessarily cause a dispute or a whole scene. Sometimes you have to take a stand. No, I will not take food at your house with onions and garlic. Sometimes you have to do that. But don't unnecessarily try to protest over everything. Householders are in the social ashram, you know? They're not in the saffron club.
No, it's just that sometimes they get a bit critical, so then it's...
That's why I said you have to be a diplomat. Everyone's family is different, right? You can't generalize. Your family is not like my family. My family, my mother, she's 95, just celebrated her 95th birthday. Oh, son, when will you come back to Jesus? I was with the church ladies, and we were all praying for you. I told her, yes, thank you, Mother. Thank you for the prayers. I need all the prayers I can get. I choose my battles. And then on one phone call, I sang to her a bit of a church hymn that is common in Christian churches that I learned when I was a little kid. Oh, she was so happy. She went and told all her church friends, he remembers, he remembers. Again, I didn't say anything. Choose your battles. She's 95. It's very difficult to change someone's mind when they're 95. So with intelligence from Krishna, you have to see what's possible. Bhakti is the art of the impossible. Maybe you can engage your family in Krishna's service even without their knowing it. Just like whenever my mother starts getting on my case too much about when are you going to come back to Jesus, I say, I'm going to talk to your sister, my aunt. She appreciates what I'm doing. Well, but I'm your mother. But yes, but she's your sister and she's my aunt, and she likes what I'm doing. So I make family politics like that. I tell her, you know, the last time I saw my aunt, she's passed away last year, but before that, when I saw her, she actually gave me a donation. So the next time I saw my mother, she gave me a donation and said, this is not for Krishna. And I said, I only give money to Govinda. She said, who's that? She said, as long as it's not Krishna, that's fine. So the whole point is to engage people in Krishna's service, not to win an argument. You understand? Last question. Okay, that's it. One more.
Maharaj, we heard that in Vrindavan, the devotees don't have the awareness that Krishna is God. But whenever they're in danger, they turn to Krishna.
Yes.
Whenever there's a demon. So why do they turn to Krishna if they don't?
Because they have
consider
no
him
other
God?
shelter but Krishna. He may be God, he may be demigod. All we know is he's our best friend, he's our best lover, he's our son. That's all we know. They don't know anything else but to turn to Krishna. They don't turn to Krishna calculating he's God. They turn to Krishna because he's their heart of heart, their soul of souls. Spontaneous, no calculation, no religious calculation. All right. Hare Krishna. Thank you all very much.